Hey there guys, it's TheXploder here and I hope you're all doing well. And today, we're going to be doing something a little bit differently here on the channel. So let me give you a little bit of pretext first. Basically, if you don't know me that well, hello, how are you doing? And to say this, I graduated from university with a degree in games design quite a few years ago now. And ever since I graduated, I've been dabbling into working on my own ideas, from creating original games to working on stories and books and all that fun stuff. And if you really want to understand my skills and what I love about narratology actually put into practice, I suggest watching D6, because D6 is literally my baby. Everything we do in Dungeons & Dragons, the main arcing storylines, you name it, mostly created by me, a little bit of inspiration here and there, but I'm the guy driving it all for you. But to put that to one side and back to the games design aspect, what we're going to try and do with this startup series that I'm doing here is that we're going to dabble into franchises and try and turn these franchises into video games. And we're going to try our luck into seeing if we can't create a really good design for a video game based around franchises that we have loved for years, or franchises that have just recently become a big deal. Hell, even franchises that you may not even know about. And today, we're going to kick this all off with Warhammer 40K. We're going to be making an MMO-RPG based around the Warhammer 40K universe, specifically based in the 41st millennium where we're at right now. And this is bearing in mind, no, I'm not talking about Eternal Crusade. I don't feel as if Eternal Crusade is a proper MMO. It's not a what I would call traditional MMORPG. So that's what we're making here. We're making a traditional MMORPG in the 41st millennium of Warhammer. So let's get straight into it. Like with any MMORPG, we have to start the game by making what I like to call the choice. The first major decision you normally make in your MMO, and it's normally related to your starting class, your race, your alignment, all that jazz. And in our case, for our 40k game, I want to ask you a question. Who would you fight alongside? Would you battle with the Imperium, or would you fight alongside the Xenos? With this being your major decision, you can already see that the PvP is going to involve some chaotic large-scale fights between both sides. Perfect for those who love to shed blood for the blood gods, am I right? Let's crack on. So after making your first major choice, being either the Imperium or Xenos, we're going to go to stage 2 of the choice, which is your starting race, or in our case, starting background, at least for the Imperium side, because what we're going to do here is the Imperium and Xenos side are going to start off completely differently, so much so that the Imperium is a very well constructed thing with set backgrounds, while the Xenos, you can choose your race. But we'll get to Xenos in a bit. Let's start off with the Imperium and their backgrounds. And if we begin this theory with the Imperium, we can put out 3 options. Number 1, becoming a Space Marine or a member of the Adeptus Astartes. Number 2, becoming a member of the Ecclesiarchy, or otherwise known as the Adeptus Ministorum. And 3, becoming a member of the Imperial Army, or the Exercitus Imperialis. Now when picking these backgrounds, what do they entail? Well, they'll start you on a planet with a set original goal that expands over time. After completing your Space Marine training, for example, you could be travelling the galaxy battling the Xenos threats as they appear, fighting alongside multiple different factions where you can eventually decide which one you wish to follow, whether that be the Blood Angels, the Ultramarines, and the list goes on. The same can be said with the Ecclesiarchy, as to decide whether you want to spread the word of the Emperor or purge the systems of heretics, and you can sign up for the Imperial Army to have conscripted missions alongside the Space Marines and the Ecclesiarchy in order to provide support. To sum this up in basic terms, Space Marines are going to be your go-to tanks and DPS classes. I mean, they're big, hulking dudes, they can have bolters, heavy bolters, chain blades, you name it. The Ecclesiarch members are going to be DPS classes, but at the same time have some sort of support bearing skill. So yes, we're going to be going around in their, well, some of them are going to have as heavily defended armor as the Space Marines, but others may just concentrate on preaching the word of the Emperor. So where they lack in armor, they may benefit from being able to use minor psycho attacks, and on top of all of that, maybe even be able to heal or at least buff allies, debuff enemies. And then lastly, with the Imperial Army, they're not just your DPS classes, but these guys are the strong support classes. These guys have a large variety of weaponry that they can mix and match up on, and on top of that, they are experts on rallying the troops. If you have this guy in front of your team, he is going to be able to not just support with backup fire, but support with being able to root you on, saying, "You have this, man, you have this, shoot those heretics," and all those fun stuffs. Now the trick with all of this is that depending on which background you choose, that background is locked. So effectively, if you want to be a part of the Adeptus Astartes, you'll become a part of the Adeptus Astartes whether you like it or not. However, from there you'll have the freedom to then decide which part of the Adeptus Astartes you wish to follow due to your actions or due to your choices when it comes to actually being in-game and following the story's questlines. Same with the Ecclesiarchy and same with the Imperial Army. So even though you're locked into your set starting role, your end goal could end up being something completely different. You could just start as a generic Space Marine and then end up becoming a member of the Death Watch. You could start off by being a Ecclesiarch that has only just started becoming like a priest, spreading the word of the Emperor, until eventually you become an Inquisitor, someone who has to rally alongside the Space Marines, making sure they're kept in check, whilst at the same time making sure that the Emperor's way is always kept to it. Meanwhile, with the Imperial Army, sure, you can start off as a soldier with a big gun in your hands, ready to charge into battle and potentially die in the name of the Emperor. But if you win these battles, go up the ranks, eventually you could end up becoming a captain of your entire army, being able to not just fight well with a combination of melee and range weapons, but also rallying your forces to the extent where they are going to feel unstoppable. So think of this decision as a start that doesn't have a definitive end, and the definitive end is eventually created by you, the player, and is not insisted upon by the storyline itself. It's completely up to whether you wish to do A, B or C, and depending on which way you go down, depends on who you may end up fighting alongside and even joining. Now with the Imperium all done, let's flick over to Xenos, and as I said earlier, for the Xenos, we're going to have a completely different way of how we're going to start this all off. You're not going to be starting as a set background, oh no. You're going to be picking a race. And our choices in this limelight are going to be threefold. So our first option is going to be playing as the Orcs, because quite frankly, who doesn't love the Orcs? And if you don't love the Orcs, why the hell are you into Warhammer? The Orcs are like my favourite dudes ever, but we'll get to those later on. Our second choice, and my second favourite villains in Warhammer 40k, are going to be the Tyranids. And the third is actually going to be the Eldar. And the reason why we want to play as the Eldar instead of, let's say, the Dark Eldar or even the Chaos Legion is because we're going to have to leave room for the big bad, like the overarching enemy force, and also potential DLC in the future of the game, but we'll get to those maybe in a later episode depending on how the series goes. Now deciding your race will lock you into that race similar to the Imperium's backgrounds, but then you'll have options to dabble into race specific classes, and this is again all decided due to your actions in game and what you feel like doing. So if you play as a member of the Orcs and you just love smashing the living daylights out of things, give yourself a couple of hammers or a couple of axes, you name it, and just rush in there and slash and bash the living daylights out of everyone, including your fellow Orcs, because quite frankly, you gotta look at your fellow Orcs and say, "My hammer's bigger than yours, ya wazak." You know, that's how the Orcs do. With the Tyranids, you maybe just start off as a baby Tyranid, not necessarily knowing what you're going to end up becoming, but depending on your actions as a baby, you end up evolving, and as you evolve, if you're more of a speed based guy that likes just dashing in there and causing high levels of DPS, you're going to be a fast moving, well bladed Tyranid. If you're a guy that has actually taken a lot of damage leading up to his evolutionary tree, you're going to be more of a tank. You're going to have massive claws, but you're also going to have a massive body with thick hide to make sure you're not going to go down so easily. And if you're more on the sidelines firing like acid from range or bits along those lines, you're going to be more of a support class, at least in the Tyranids point of view. And then we're left with the Eldar. Now when it comes to the Eldar, choices over here are going to be based around your actions yet again, and eventually you're either going to be a holy part of the Eldar, where it's kind of like the opposite of the ecclesiarchy. You're either going to be a straightforward soldier of the Eldar, where you're going in and out of invisibility, doing more stealth-based missions, or you're going to do a whole melee thing and just basically act like the Warhammer 40K equivalent of a witch elf. And if you don't know what a witch elf is, read some regular Warhammer and then get back to me. And that's where the fun is going to be. So the Eldar are going to act like your stealth race, the Tyranids are going to act like your aggressive race with tactical options, and then your Orcs are just going to be your mindless, let's go in there, bash the living daylights out of things, because that's all we know how to do right now. As well as just craft things by bashing it a little bit and shoving our face on it. But it's just as simple as that. And with that, that's a very basic setup for how we would begin designing an MMORPG based in the universe of Warhammer 40K and in the 41st millennium. And with that done, I don't want to leave it with you guys, because I want to get your guys' thoughts. I want to see if you have any questions as to what we can flesh out, and in the next installment, when we come back to Warhammer 40k, I'm going to read over your comments, and we're going to have a look as to how we can indeed flesh this out, looking into individual classes, the storyline, you name it. But with all that said, thanks for watching the video. I hope you did enjoy. Be sure to leave your comments down below and pop up a like if you did enjoy it, and hell, if you did like the video and you're looking forward to what we're going to do next with other franchises as well as dabbling back into the world of 40k, why don't you give me a subscribe and click on that bell. With all that said, I'm TheXploder. I'll be seeing you guys next time, and until then, stay explosive, and I'll see you then.